Hello again. Welcome to another Fresh from the Theater vlog. I just saw Happy Death Day to You, and I don't know what to say without spoiling the movie. Simply put, I fucking love this film. I saw the trailers for this movie, and I loved the first film. It was one of the most creative horror comedies I had seen in a long time, and this movie just ups the creativity. And I was a little nervous because I saw the trailer for this film, and it looked like they were gonna, like, the trailer kind of explains a little bit about what the plot's gonna be. It opens with Carter from the first film's roommate, Ryan, waking up, and now it seems like he's going to be stuck in the time loop that Tree was stuck in the first film. She was the main character of the first film, and she was reliving the same day over and over and over, where she gets killed until she found out the identity of the killer. And this sequel, Ryan, Carter's roommate, who was pretty much just used for a repeat joke throughout the film, gets a much bigger role, and he becomes a pretty interesting character. And that is what the beginning of the film is about. And the trailer shows that somehow Tree ends up back in her happy death birthday, and she's now stuck trying to relive it again. Only this time she has to focus on saving her friends. And when I saw the trailer, I wasn't sure exactly how they're gonna make the story they were presenting, interesting. But then again, it is a trailer, but the trailer at first didn't entirely sell me. But I love the first film so much, I wanted to go see this, and I went in not expecting to love it, a little nervous, but I came out just, oh my god, I fucking love this film. I cannot say that enough. This movie it had just as many twists and turns, it kept everything interesting. And I was on the edge of my seat just wondering how it was going to end and what was going to come next. And I would say it is just as good as the first film. Not better, but just as good. And like the first movie, where it was kind of like a slasher version of Groundhog Day, and they even acknowledged the resemblance in that film. In this movie, they acknowledge, like, this movie takes a completely different shift in genre, tone approach than the first film. And I'll get into that a little more when I talk about spoilers, but it did it very well. And the film that they mentioned that is the best movie to compare this sequel to is Back to the Future Part 2. And I heard someone else compare this movie to that movie, and yeah, that is a good comparison, and it does it pretty well. And Back to the Future Part 2 is another sequel that kind of revisits the first film that a lot of people apparently have mixed feelings about, but I always loved it, and that was actually my favorite film of that movie's trilogy. And so it was cool that they were kind of, I guess, paying tribute to that. And all the favorite players are back. Jessica Rothy, hope I pronounced that right, as Tree Gelman. Israel Rousard, I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing that right, as Carter Davis. Phi Vu as Ryan Fan. Once again, he's much more expanded here than he was in the first film, and he did a great job here. His character was interesting. Had a few forceful comedic moments, but the character was definitely expanded, and he is an important part of this plot. And I'll get to it later, but it's actually revealed that it's his fucking fault that Tree went through the time loop of the first film. And director Christopher Landon, who returns from the first film as well, said that there would be an explanation for the time loop if they did a sequel. And I guess I wasn't necessarily asking for a reason, but the reason they did give, they worked it very well, and I'm glad he came back, because his direction on the first film was very great, and it's just great here as well. And I was a little nervous when I saw that Scott Lobdell, the writer of the first film, was not going to return, but Christopher Landon, who now takes over both directing and writing credit, he pulled them both out very well. He continued the film perfectly, and I'm guessing he had a great understanding of the characters, and maybe he talked with Scott Lobdell, because it's clear he gets these characters and just the way the story should go, the tone, the flow, the evening out of genres. And that's another thing. The first Happy Death Day, next to being a slasher comedy, was surprisingly pretty blended. Like, it had some dramatic moments that I was not expecting, like real tearjerker moments that didn't feel too sappy, like not Lifetime levels of sappy, but some genuinely emotional moments that were very well done and very well acted, and it all came together in that film, and it does so here as well. And I'm not sure what else I can say that isn't spoiler related, but I'll try. Bear McCreary, always putting in some great music, does an awesome job here. He also comes back from the first film, and he's a great horror composer. And like in the first film, there's a death montage here. Although I personally don't think it's as awesome as the first film. Like in the first film, it was her being murdered over and over as she works to find out who could be the killer. In this film, it's her trying to figure a way, I guess, out of the time loop, and either to avoid getting killed by the killer, or just so she can figure it out without a deadline. Yeah. She kills herself, so it's a suicide montage. And it is very funny, and like in the first film where we don't, like, it's PG-13, but like in the first film where she took the chance to walk around naked one day, we get another kind of skin moment where she's in a bikini and she goes skydiving, like skydives out of a plane in a bikini and just being like, yeah! And that was fun, sexy, and well, I like this montage. I think the murder montage was more fun and it was a little more interesting. That's all I really gotta say before I have to get into the spoiler shit. So, if you don't want things to get spoiled, be gone. Alright, let's talk about this film in full detail. Ryan wakes up in his car and goes back to his dorm room where Carter and Tree are making out. They tell him to go away, and turns out Ryan is a science kid, and he goes to this lab where he meets up with his partner slash friends, our new side characters for the film. Samar Ghosh, played by Suraj Sharma, and Dre Morgan, played by Sarah Yarkin. And these new characters they're okay. There's nothing really interesting about them. They're just kind of there. And the Dre character is, no way to put it, just adorable. Like, she's the smallest member of their group, and Samar, they tried to give him some character, I guess. Like, he's, I guess, the comic relief of the film, taking over what little relief Ryan had in the last movie. Although, his humor is kind of, it gets old pretty fast, and there's this running gag with how, he likes churros, and they carried it all the way to the very end, and it wasn't really that funny for me by that point. But Ryan meets up with Samar and Dre at the lab, and then the dean, played by Steve Zissou, comes in, and right away he tells them their project is a waste of time, it's not making any money, and it's all going to be taken away soon. And then Ryan is all alone and hears a noise, and he goes to investigate, and boom, the baby mask wearing killer of the first film is back somehow, even though the killer died in the last film. He gets killed, wakes up, and he stumbles into the room where, once again, Carter and Tree are. And he's acting all freaked out, talks about having deja vu, and then Tree, realizing what's going on, immediately tries to help. And if it wasn't for the fact that the trailer kind of spoiled this part, this is what you might assume the film is going to be about. Like, Ryan's now the main character reliving, and maybe Tree's gonna help him, and at first I was thinking, I kind of want this to be the main story, just adding a little bit of a fun twist to it. But then, we get a big wham fucking twist, where the project that Ryan and Dre and Samara are working on, that we saw a few minutes ago, which kind of hinted what it was going to be, their project pretty much explains the time loop from the first film. Turns out they, as they put in the film, invented a experimental quantum reactor, which triggered the time loop when they tried running it the day before. So yeah, it's their fault that Tree was reliving her death day, and then they catch the new baby mask wearing killer. And I liked how they acknowledged that it's kind of fucked up that their college would use that kind of image as their fucking mascot. But they take the mask off. They actually get the killer pretty early, to which you're like, can't be that easy. They take the mask off, and it's Ryan. And it turns out he's from another dimension. And the reactor is causing, like, people to travel through parallel dimensions, like different versions of the main characters. And this version of Ryan is here to kill the Ryan in this dimension. While trying to do that and trying to test the reactor again, something goes wrong, and Tree ends up back in her death day from the first film. And I loved her reaction. She just gives the evil eyes to Ryan, be like, you did this, and has him take her to the lab to try and figure out how to fix things. And then it turns out this is not the same version of the day Tree was in the first film. She's gone into another dimension, and a lot is pretty similar here, except a few things. One, the main sorority sister, who was kind of one of Tree's antagonists in the first film, Danielle, played by Rachel Matthews, she at first appears a little different here. Like, she's not quite a huge bitch as she was in the first film. And also turns out in this dimension, Carter and Danielle are a couple, which is just, they play just ultimate tragic. I know it's a classic bit of music, but I can't remember at the moment. They play tragic music, and just you can just see the horror in Tree's eyes when she sees them kiss for the first time. And she's desperate to get back to her own dimension. But then she finds out something else. In this dimension, her mother, whose death weighed on her heavily in the last movie, is still alive. So now she doesn't want to leave. She wants to stay, and, well, she still needs to work with Ryan and his friends. Now she just wants them to end the time loop, but stay there. So, to figure out how to end the time loop, it would take weeks of research for them, as they established, to figure it all out. And this is very cool. Like, Tree is an incredible slasher protagonist. She is just, like, she started out as very bitchy, very unlikable in the first film, and then her character, like, she became smarter, she was very interesting, and became a better person, and In this film, while she still has a little bit of bitchiness, she's a much better person, and also we see her kind of grow in terms of smarts, like with science, and also, I guess, looking at things in a more, I guess, looking at it from different points of view, life, and it's a real emotional journey with the character this time, which was just great to watch. And Jessica Rothy, she gave an awesome performance in the first film. Here, she was just amazing. She was funny, she was badass, she was vulnerable. Just, she, in the comedy and dramatic scenes, especially the dramatic scenes, she has great acting chops, and I'm really curious to see more of her work in the future. I mean, she carried this whole fucking film. She carried both of these movies. She was just great. I can't praise her enough. Anyway, to get past the fact that she's the only one that will remember anything after each day where she has to die, she memorizes all the research they do, and she brings it to them each day. She reawakens, and because they're scientists, and because she remembers all the certain details that can prove, certain science details that could prove to them that she's right, that it was believable that they would buy into it, especially if she remembers very specific details. And she spends this whole time just wanting to stop the time loop and stay in this universe where her mother is alive. She does contemplate for a bit, wondering if she wants to go back, because she and Carter are together, and I love them together. They were a great couple, but I kind of saw it from her point of view. I mean, her mother is alive, and it means a lot to her, so you're sitting with her, and you're really feeling the emotional tug of war going on. And it's complex. She changes her mind a few times, but ultimately, after we'll talk on what is meant to be with her mom, she makes her choice, and she decides in the end she does want to go back, and but not before having a good emotional goodbye with her mom. And there is a killer in this universe. However, it turns out this killer is not after Tree, and it's not even the same killer from the last film. Lori, for anyone who doesn't remember, Tree's roommate, played by Ruby Modine, she was the killer in the last film, and she was, you didn't see it coming, and she was great when she had her 5 minutes of evilness. But in this film, in this alternate dimension, Lori is the person who is the target of this dimension's killer. Tree does everything she can to save her, find out who this new killer is, and the killer in this film is the doctor who, in the last film, Tree was having an affair with, like he was cheating on his wife with her. In this version, Lori, who was trying to kill Tree because she was jealous of their relationship. This version, Lori's the one he's cheating with, and his reason, his wife found out, and I guess, I don't know, blackmailed him or emotionally blackmailed him, and we have him, and this guy, Britt's, next to being almost always funny, even with mundane material, can also pull off the evil, scary personality very well, and he does that just great here. And it turns out his wife, a lot of people wondered if she was going to be the killer in the first film, and that was going to be an alternate ending of sorts. And here we see that they're both the killers, and she and her husband try to kill Lori, and then out of nowhere he shoots his wife and is like, I want a divorce. Just straight out of Total fucking Recall. But Tree, she fights and takes out this motherfucker, and while that's going on, Ryan, Samar, and Dre fight get the reactor going. It turns out like the dean is like shutting them down, and the parts with the dean were my least favorite parts in the climax. Like the dean character got very annoying, and like the whole character, well, I get it, keep the suspense going. I found the character annoying just as shit, and the Danielle character, her method of distracting him it just came off as, even for this film where it has kind of a little satirical feel to it, just came off as really fucking stupid. But aside from that, the climax was thrilling, gripping, and their final moment with this alternate Lori was... I liked it, just saying I wish things could have been different. And then she says goodbye to the Carter of this dimension, and just as the reactor goes, they kiss, and this is the shot of them kissing as like the reactor goes off is... It was an amazing shot, like visually. It looked... This is what my favorite shot I've seen in a movie this year so far. And then it ends with them all back in their normal dimension and realizing they're back. Tree embraces Carter, and it was... This whole movie just... I loved it. If you love the first film, if you love movies like, say, Student Bodies or Hellfest or My Bloody Valentine, I think you'll really enjoy this movie. Although the final few minutes, like the starting with the end credits, I'm a little mixed on. First off, the song choice they chose to end it. I mean, I know they had a fun song play at the end of the last film, but this film, when the credits start to roll, the song they play is a kind of, I guess, pop version of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, sung by, I don't remember who, someone called Lizzo, I think, in the credits, and I love Staying Alive, but this version sucked. And then we get a mid-credits scene, and while a mid or post-credits scene would be very welcome in this type of movie, this one felt a little off, for lack of a better term. Just, I'm not sure it matched the tone that the end of the film had. I mean, it goes in style with the whole series in general, but with the way the film ended, it just didn't match like the ending scene. Like, it was a weird follow-up to the ending scene, where government agents come in and take the kids who are doing community service for, I guess, the ruckus shit they did, and apparently they stole Ryan's invention, and they want to use it, and they're asking for their help to figure it out, and also talking about putting someone through a time loop, and in a moment that feels a bit out of character for both of them, Carter says, "That would be really cruel to put someone through a time loop, unless they really deserved it." So Tree's like, "I think I had the perfect test subject." And then we cut to a girl waking up screaming and like, just insanity, and it's Danielle. Yeah. that made me laugh out loud in the theater. Just, that was a hilarious note to go out on, but at the same time, like, even though the character is just a fucking bitch, just for Tree and Carter at this point in this franchise, this story seemed a little out of character and a little cruel for them. Like, even for a character like Danielle, just, well, not horrible. Like, it is hilarious. Just a little odd note to go out on. But yeah, that's the majority of the film, and I love the Happy Death Day movies. They're just smart, funny, and they never get boring, and they've got great writing, great characters, incredible direction, and there's rumors they might do a third one, and that'd be interesting. They'd have to. I'm curious what they could possibly do to that just one up the second one, because I'm not sure how much more creative you could get. But if they maybe just brought in some that original angle they thought they were going to go through with new characters going through the loop, maybe that could work. But I love these characters. I love these actors. It'd just be cool to see them all again. I completely skipped over my shock of where the film went with the sci-fi shit. I'll give the trailer this. While I don't think the trailer was that enticing, it did a great job of hiding that aspect to the point that I was a bit surprised. And at first, I was not sure I liked where it was going with the sci-fi shit. Just, I liked the horror aspect. And even though whether or not we wanted an answer to the time loop, I wouldn't have guessed a sci-fi explanation was the reason. I think, like many, I was thinking it was going to be like an unexplained supernatural thing, like in Groundhog Day, but they went with sci-fi, and you know what? They made it work. They made it work so goddamn well, and it takes a little bit, but you get into it. There's probably a few things I missed when talking about this, but fresh from the theater, these are my thoughts, and this is all I can think of in the moment. I've been thinking about what I was going to say, and last thing I will say, I love the little nods to older horror movies. Like, we see posters for older films in Carter's Room, the most noticeable in this one being one for John Carpenter's They Live. And there's a scene between Tree and her mom where they're watching one of my favorite films from when I was a young kid, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Pretty cool. I totally recommend seeing this movie. Jessica Rothy, she's an amazing lead, and I just had a fucking blast. On the 10-star scale, I give it an 8.6. On the 5-star scale, sorry. A little tired, I only got 3 hours of sleep last night. On the 5-star scale, I give it 4.5. Yeah, this movie is that fucking good. Later.